Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, lawmakers seeking to review a law reducing jail time based on good behavior.
Pinag-aaralan ni Pangulong Duterte ang batas at nakalagay po doon sa Republic Act 592 na excluded po ang heinous crime.
The Justice Department suspending the processing of qualified inmates.
It's up to the Secretary of Justice to tell us kung ano yung kanyang sinasakop, and if anyone is not satisfied, then they can come to us again.
After the possibility of rape slay convict Antonio Sanchez would walk free from prison loomed.
So suddenly, parang nag-iba yung tema. Hinold. So nagtataka kami, bakit may release order na, hinold ang pagpapalabas ng father ko.
So is the good conduct time allowance law a good thing or a bad thing? Ako, BICOL Partylist Representative Alfredo Garbin and former Senator Rene Saguisag join us live. Thank you for joining us. Sitting in for Pinky Web, I'm Ina Andolong. President Rodrigo Duterte stands firm on his decision not to allow rape slay convict and former Laguna Mayor Antonio Sanchez to walk free from prison. The Justice Department working with the Bureau of Corrections to dig deeper into a law reducing jail time based on good behavior. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara says a task force will ask Bucor for the names of inmates released under the good conduct time allowance to look into their records. The Sanchez family, however, insists that the former mayor is innocent and qualified to benefit under the good conduct time allowance law. So does he deserve a second chance? Let's go straight to the sources of the story. Ako, BICOL Partylist Representative Alfredo Garbin and former Senator Rene Saguisag. Good morning, sirs.
Magandang umaga po naman.
Good morning.
It's been an honor to be here with my idol, both in public service and in legal circle, Attorney Saguisag.
Para senador naman bola. No?
Hindi ho. Law student pala ako, talagang tinitingala na ho kita. Oh.
Thank you. Very kind.
We'll start first, sir, with Congressman Garbin. So you filed a resolution seeking a probe into the implementation of the GCTA law. What exactly first, sir, do you want to achieve in this probe? This early, or are you already looking at specific amendments?
Well, we filed the resolution to exercise our oversight function to see to it that the provisions of GCTA and the IRR are properly implemented, especially so the effect of this hula baloo that was caused about by the inclusion of Antonio Sanchez, who is a convicted murderer and rapist at that, and a person charged or guilty of heinous crime, bakit nakasama iyon? And so we want to look into the process, the management selection, evaluation process on how they choose and select the inmates who are the eligibles. So yun yung aming gusto silipin.
Sir, apparently you also want to hold some people accountable. Those supposedly po ba, tama, who initially considered Mayor Sanchez, you want to look into what happened, bakit nagkaroon ng ganong initial issue, is that right?
We want to investigate how a person convicted of heinous crime was included in the GCTA beneficiary. So remember that there are specific guidelines under the IRR. We call it the factual determinations and the arithmetical computation. Doon pa lang sa factual determinations, bakit hindi na-observe yun properly?
Okay, we'll go now to Attorney Saguisag. Now, in 2014, you supported a petition which sought to have the law first to take effect retroactively.
Well, the one
Your thoughts?
who really started it was young lawyer Michael Evangelista, who filed this suit for the Muntinlupa inmates. I intervened for the women, the Correctional Institute for Women here in Mandaluyong. And last June or July, he won. And that was when all hell broke loose nang mabanggit na Mayor Tony Sanchez kasama. Pero may personal dilemma rito. I have spoken with certain Lagunenses, no? And they echo what the family says.
Na merong...
He was innocent.
Oh, okay.
In other words, like what I just got from an email, sana may DNA testing na nung araw. Dahil isang lata raw ng sardinas yung semen, no?
Right, right.
So that's my concern kung talagang may kasalanan o wala. But given the outcry, I'm just amazed na sentiments were not considered by Mr. Duterte when he moved surreptitiously the remains of Mr. Marcos. Kung relevant yung sentiments of the victims, that should have applied to the victims of the families of the victims of human rights violations.
Okay. But on the CGTA law, sir, first, why do you think there is a need, if you do think that there is convicts would stand to benefit, or people would stand to benefit from this law? Why do you think it's a need for this law, and why did you want it to take effect retroactively?
General principle in law, if there is a development that is beneficial to prisoners or to an accused, should retroact. Pero the position taken then by the Department of Justice, only retroactive, no? That was why Michael Evangelista went to the Supreme Court for Muntinlupa and I joined for Mandaluyong.
Did you expect this kind of scenario, sir, to
No,
happen?
not at all.
Or
I mean, all hell breaking loose. We had no one in mind when we filed the petitions, not knowing who would benefit or not. Then we read na 11,000 daw, and maybe we should refine the process. But to me, I mean, the Christian in me, everyone deserves a second chance, no? So, ang problema with Mayor Sanchez, maraming kwento about continuing abuses or violations.
yes,
But if he really has misbehaved, then malinaw naman doon sa batas
Hindi siya
na kung
pwede.
recidivist, hindi pwede. And then kung hindi good conduct, kundi misconduct, then he may not qualify either.
you mentioned refining the process, sir. I guess this could apply to you both also. Ano ba, kulang po ba ng safeguards yung law as it is right now?
I always say that GCTA is a good law. In fact, our criminal justice system, I agree with Attorney Saguisag, that is really designed to rehabilitate and to, restore the criminal into our normal society. But in the process, and in those penal laws that benefits those persons guilty of felony, that is a passive grant. You have to exhibit, like for example, in the GCTA, you have to exhibit good behavior, satisfactory and good behavior. You have to follow prison rules and regulations. And that's why I always mention that in the process of determining who are eligible in the GCTA, merong basis of factual determination, two factual determination. One of which is that, are you not excluded or are you not exempted from the application of the law? And I agree with Attorney Saguisag that he is exempt. Antonio Sanchez is excluded because he's a recidivist and charged with a heinous crime. And second is, the second factual determination, did he exhibited satisfactory and good behavior while serving his sentence? Now, how in the world is bringing drugs and, of course, contrabando in his prison cell can be considered as good behavior? So those are the things na naging anomalya, naging pagkakagalit ng ating country, ng ating nasyon, kung bakit ito yung nangyari.
Now, there's a debate, sirs, on whether or not ang heinous crimes ba talaga excluded. Is it really clear in the law, as far as you're concerned, that they should be excluded, those convicted with heinous crimes?
Well, upon reading the law, it includes heinous crimes. It says of recidivists, it speaks of habitual delinquents, escapees, and persons charged with heinous crimes are excluded from the coverage of this act.
Now, yung definition naman, sir, ng heinous crimes, because some are saying there's really no clear list of specific crimes. Ano ba, Attorney
Well, to
Saguisag?
me, rape with homicide would,
It's a no-brainer.
would qualify. In
But
fact,
is there a basis, sir,
Hindi,
a law?
nandun sa batas talaga yun eh. Pero yung una nga, si Salpanelo at saka si Secretary Guevara, pakending-kending pa, no? It took the President to point out that clause in the law.
Let me just point out that what was suspended in the heinous crime is the imposition of death penalty.
Okay.
But the enumeration below
It's there in the
of
death
what are
penalty
the
law.
heinous crime includes rape with homicide, murder, parricide, treason, plunder, and even selling of illegal drugs under Republic Act 9165. Nandun lahat naka-enumerate. So, hindi yun suspended.
We're showing, sir, the RA 10592. Yan yung sinasabi ninyong section.
Yes,
Which
yes.
mentions that those charged with heinous crimes are excluded from the coverage of this act. So what are your suspicions? Why then, if it's supposedly clear in the law that people convicted with heinous crimes are excluded, why do you think are we in this situation with the issue with the
So,
mayor?
it is
former
really in
mayor?
those areas that we want to look into based on our oversight power. Paano nangyayari yun? Yung management, selection, and evaluation process, tama ba? Do they have the records of the inmates who have undergone rehabilitations, who have participated in all the programs sanctioned by the penitentiary, and exhibited good behavior? Meron ba silang record na ganun? Kasi kung walang record, talaga naman nakalimutan yung pagdala ng shabu at ng kontrabando sa loob ng presuhan. Yun ang aming susisilipin doon. At para maiwasan natin na yung GCTA are for sale.
Okay. Attorney Saguisag, your thoughts. If it's clear in the law that those charged with heinous crimes should be excluded, why are we in this situation, do you think?
Well,
Bakit?
because of the statements of Messrs. Panelo and Guevara in the beginning. Ako naman, ang concern ko dyan, talagang I have reasonable doubt. The family insists na innocent, he insists on innocent. Of course, every criminal claims na innocente. But I have corroborating views from certain Lagunenses. Kaya to my mind, not the issue whether GCTA, kundi was he guilty at all. Ang suggestion nga nung isang naka-email ko, sana nag-DNA testing. But too late now, I guess.
Is there anything we can do about that now, sir? Is there anything we can do about that now, though?
I hope there can be, no? Dahil in the U.S., so many stories of inmates being released years later because of this technological advance. But I suppose we are still third world backwater when it comes to such sophisticated technology.
Okay, we'll be taking a short break first. This is a source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guests today, ako BICOL Partylist Representative Alfredo Garbin and former Senator Rene Saguisag. We're still talking about the GCTA law. Of course, President Duterte has apparently ordered BICOL Chief Nicanor Faeldon and the Secretary of Justice not to allow the early release of former Mayor Antonio Sanchez. Let's play a clip first of Senator Bongo talking about that.
Pinaabot niya kay Bucor Chief Faeldon at kay Secretary Guevara para iparating sa kanila na hindi maring marilis yan dahil pinag-aaralan ni Pangulong Duterte ang batas. Kaya ako rin po mismo, sinabi ko na huwag ka nang mangarap pa lumabas dyan sa kulungan. Pagdusahan mo ang iyong kasalanan dyan sa loob. Alam mo, pag Mr. Sanchez, pag lumabas ka, iikli pa yung buhay mo.
Your thoughts on this first? It took the president, as you mentioned, sir, Attorney Saguisag earlier. Kinailangan pa si presidente ang mag-point out that he should not, that the former mayor should not qualify doon sa GCTA.
Yun ang
What do you think
sistema
about that?
natin ngayon He is not only super executive, super court, super legislature, and a one-man continuing constitutional convention. Once he speaks, tupi lahat. And tama na yung dapat yan, pinaubaya na lang kay Secretary Guevara, no? But that's the reason na hindi mare-release dahil sinabi ng Panginoon may batas. Total, tama naman yung opinion niya. But that should have been stated by others. The President does not have really to comment on every little thing. Pero correct siya na yun nga. Ang hindi ko ma-sure dyan talaga, did he really commit those offenses? No? Kasi I have the highest respect for Judge Harriet, and even the Supreme Court, when it affirmed the ruling in 1999, ponente si Justice Tony Kilay Martinez, for whom I have the highest regard also. But like I said, sana na-testing ng JNA nung panahong yun.
Okay, Congressman Garbin, what do you think about that? I mean, kasi the law, hindi na naman po talaga yata aabot kay Presidente yung pag-approve eh. So, it depends heavily on prison officials, the Board of Pardons and Parole, and yet, again, the President had to make that, come up with that directive. What do you think about that?
Well, when we filed the resolution to investigate and exercise our oversight function, our purpose not is just to zeroing into Antonio Sanchez, but to prevent the exodus of thousands of inmates who are not eligible into just GCTA. Kung mangyayari nga sana doon kay Antonio Sanchez, and how much more doon sa ibang ineligible inmates or persons deprived of liberty. Now, I mentioned this because I have this anticipation na yung mga inmates who testified before us in the 17th Congress, I'm referring to the drug lords, appeared before us in the Justice Committee and testified under oath that they have been doing operations, illegal drugs inside the Bureau of Correction that go against their good behavior. And there was this news na yung 11 who testified before us will be part of the eligibles in the GCTA program. And so, nabahala kami. Right. Tingnan nga natin to kasi hindi lang pala to Sanchez, kundi yung mga taong convicted of heinous crimes, drug traffickers, that will be included in the list. So, we want to prevent the exodus of inmates not eligible under GCTA. And we want to see to it that the GCTA and its internal rules and regulation is properly implemented. Because GCTA is a good law.
Well, the decision on whether or not inmates are qualified, again, would depend on the Board of Pardons and Parole. Do you think that makes the process prone to corruption, sir?
Totoo nga naman.
Dahil the more discretion you give to certain bodies or people, makikita natin ng lamang na naman yung mga pribilehiyado. And so my own interest here is really prison reform in general. I want to have suspended sentences, nighttime service, weekend service, especially for breadwinners, para hindi naman pati pamilya nila naghihirap who may turn to crime. In Spain and Italy, I understand that for septuagenarians, no jail time, community service. Ngayon, siguro self-serving, no? I qualify. Pero yun nga, talagang kailangan, dahil if you go to any prison ngayon, Manila, nakakahiya. Talagang it's subhuman, no? May hindi mo alam kung paano pagpasok eh. At pagdating mo doon, the overcrowding, etc. Kaya anything that would result in decongesting our prisons, I'm generally in favor. Kasi mga retratong ko matulog, patong-patong. O yung mga ginagamit. Kasi when I first visited sa Hubert Webb sa Parañaque, he was sharing a bench with another inmate. And talagang suffocating, walang ventilation. So we should look at the larger issue of prison reform, including this one, more liberal attitude towards inmates.
Okay, we'll talk about, sir, the decongestion issue later on. But again, sir, the process, do you think it's a bit prone, it could be prone to corruption
It could be
considering?
prone, and that's why it should be followed strictly to the letters. I have said earlier, any release of any eligible inmates must be based on factual determination and arithmetical computation. And that is provided for. Yung factual determination, let me just enumerate. Dalawa yon. Una, hindi ka ba excluded? Hindi ka ba exempted? Kung excluded ka, kung ikay recidivist, kung ikay habitual delinquent, escapist, heinous crime, excluded ka na kagad. Pangalawang factual determination, did you exhibited good and satisfactory behavior while serving your sentence? Did you follow the prison rules and regulations? So these are the things that the Management Selection Evaluation Committee should consider. Ang problema, meron ba silang recording yun? Paano ba nila na-record yung good behavior, yung reforma na ginawa ng inmates? Yun ang itatanong natin.
Okay, we'll be taking another short break. This is the Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guests today, ako BICOL Partylist Representative Alfredo Garbin and former Senator Rene Saguisag. We're still talking about the GCTA and of course what happened to former Mayor Antonio Sanchez. We'll play first a soundbite from the son of Antonio Sanchez. They're still, of course, insisting that their father, the former mayor, is innocent.
So suddenly, parang nag-iba yung tema. Hinold. So nagtataka kami, bakit may release order na, hinold ang pagpapalabas ng father ko. So that's a big question. Bakit? Nangyayari ngayon para bang na-single out ang daddy ko na ngayon mo lang gagawin o babaguhin ang batas. Ay samantalang 2013 pa, ano na yan, yung GCTA na yan, na pinagkaloob para sa mga nasa loob. At siguro, para mabigyan naman ng chance yung iba, wala na ba tayong karapatan magbago? Kung ba, ika nga, sabi nga ni Senator Bato, why do give him a second chance? Una sa lahat, qualified naman siya sa batas.
Okay, sirs, do you think that this debate on whether or not Antonio Sanchez is qualified could actually work for him? Because I read, si Senator Franklin Drilon is saying talks of possibly amending the law could benefit Antonio Sanchez kasi he could argue that kaya nyo i-amend yan is because as it is right now, I could qualify for it. Your thoughts on that, sir?
You know what? The good conduct time allowance was there already in the revised penal code. It was further amended by Republic Act 10592. Ba't na naman i-amend natin? Hindi pa nga natin na fully or strictly implement. Silipin muna natin yung mga loopholes sa batas. And this is not, you know, GCTA is above Antonio Sanchez. This is really giving hope and reformation for our guilty of felonies, those who are serving sentence, those who are deprived of their liberty. Pero dapat meron ipatunay naman sila that they have exhibited good behavior. So, para sa akin dyan, hindi kailangan i-amend.
Hindi.
Silipin lang at busisiin at siguraduhin na tama yung pag-implementa. And that's why we put a greater, scrutiny to the Bureau of Correction personnel, the Management Evaluation and Screening Committee, na gawin nila ang kanilang trabaho. And yun ang aming itatanong pagdating ng investigasyon sa Kongreso.
Attorney Saguisag, talks of amending it.
Well, there's a process going on now. Nag-create yata ng committee si Secretary Guevara. I hope it will not take a long time. No? Baka mamatay na of old age yung mga dapat makinabang dyan. So to me, the suggestion that we review it is welcome. No? At yun nga, kung talagang hindi malinaw yun, although parang very clear na rin to me what the law says. we should. But like I said, my basic problem here is I am unconvinced kung talagang may kasalanan yung tao in connection with the very horrid crime that occurred more than 25 years ago. So while I share the sentiments of the loved ones, no, ako naman, all my life, I always remember the saying na, in this world, when you laugh, the whole world laughs with you, but you weep alone. So dito, the very popular view is go after Sanchez. Ako naman, wait a minute. Bakit hanggang ngayon ini-insist ang pamilya na walang kasalanan? Sayang nga na hindi na pwede ma-DNA testing today, in my opinion. No? Pero as a layman, hindi ko alam kung certain experts or technical people will agree na it is still possible if the NBI kept the necessary specimens. But in the case of Hubert Webb, I don't trust the NBI sa record keeping.
Okay. Briefly, Congressman Garbin, yung pag-i-insist po kasi ng innocence, in the case of granting pardon, sir, di ba kailangan po required that the convict admits to the crime? Do you see the need for that similar requirement in granting itong reduced jail time?
Well, I see it in a way that you have to exhibit satisfactory and good behavior.
Even if hindi niya
Not
inaamin?
really admitting, because this is totally different from
Yes.
pardon. But let me go back to my point that this is beyond Antonio Sanchez. This is really giving hope for those who have convicted and serving sentence. At the same time, of giving benefits under the GCTA, it is a passive grant wherein you have to exhibit good behavior, and the selection process, the evaluation process must be properly scrutinized.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time this morning, sir. Thank you. Ako, BICOL Partylist Representative Alfredo Garbin and former Senator Rene Saguisag.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Hanggang kailan ka
Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Ina Andolong. You're watching CNN Philippines.